This is Dance Studio 411, where we answer your real-life questions about your toughest studio life predicaments. Parent problems, teacher turnover, student challenges, policy dilemmas, and so much more. Let's talk about what's keeping you awake at night and what you can do about it. Here are your hosts, Suzanne Blake Garrity and Jill Tirone.
Welcome to this episode of the Dance Studio 411 podcast, where we answer your real-life questions about running a successful dance studio. I'm Jill Tirone, and in today's episode, we're talking with Dotty Hancock, and she's the owner of Dance Arts Academy in Idaho. Dottie is an inspiring studio owner who has built a 6,000 square foot facility, raised a family, and faced some serious health challenges, but she's stayed grounded in her love of dance through it all. Dottie brings both heart and hard-earned wisdom to this conversation today. You'll hear how she's created a studio culture that reflects her values and built a resilient team to support her and the families she serves. Whether you're feeling stuck, stretched, or just in need of some perspective, this candid chat will leave you feeling inspired. So let's dive into studio life, setbacks and success, lessons in leadership with Dotty Hancock. Welcome to this episode of the Dance Studio 411 podcast. I'm Jill Tirone, and today I'm here with my special friend, Dotty Hancock. She owns Dance Arts Academy in Idaho, and today we are talking about how you can handle setbacks and really lead to success with strong leadership in your dance studio. So I want her to welcome into the show with her own words on all of her successes, all of the things that she's been doing, and we'll get started on this wonderful podcast. So welcome, Dottie.
Thank you, Jill. Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you today.
Good, I am too. So for our listeners, why don't you give a little bit of your background and we'll get to know you a little bit more, and then we'll dive right in with the questions we're going to talk about today.
Sure. Yeah, I purchased Dance Arts Academy at the ripe old age of 21. I was just about to graduate from college, and the studio I was teaching at came up for sale. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do when I graduated. So I was like, hey, perfect. I always thought I could own a dance studio someday. So I guess today's the day. So I bought it, and I've been doing that for 24 years now. I have taught all ages, but now I love teaching the little ones the most. So that's what I still teach a few classes a week. And so I teach little ones. And yeah, that's kind of my backstory when it comes to having a dance studio for the last 24 years.
I love that you absolutely just dove right in. You went in feet first, and you're like, I'm just going to dive in. I'm going to keep swimming, and I'm going to figure this all out.
Sure. I mean, of course, at 21, you think you know everything. So, I mean, of course, you figure out that you don't later on, but I think I just was fearless at the time and thought I can do this.
I love that. And we're going to talk a little bit later, and I'll probably ask you for a little parting words for some newer studio owners. But
Sure.
really, I think back to when I was 21 as well, and you are fearless. And I think as we age a little bit and we have a little more experience and more responsibilities under our belt, we tend to be a little more hesitant or a little bit more cautious and curious as we go through. But yeah, diving right in, sometimes that's just the best way to get it done.
Absolutely.
Great. So again, talking about successes and setbacks, you've had some pretty big strides and then some pretty big things that have happened in your world too. So,
Yes.
Tell us about building a studio out and also then navigating some pretty significant personal challenges. What happened when your life outside the studio kind of collided with your leadership within the studio?
Yeah, as a studio owner, we're kind of like a miniature celebrity in our community. And I think sometimes our students and clients forget that we have real lives too, because we have to like put on the face of, a professional business all the time. But the fact of the matter is that life is still happening. So I had a micro-preemie when my husband and I, our first child was born at 24 weeks gestation. She was 1 pound, 5 ounces. And at that same time is when we built a brand new 6,000 square foot facility for our dance studio. And so you just do it. You just jump in. I don't even remember a lot of the details of that time in my life, just because you're just taking it one day at a time. And yeah, it was major, but we made it happen. Our facility that we built was an 8-minute drive from our previous facility. And at that time, we only had 5 families follow us to the new building. Everybody thought that that was too far away. And so we essentially started over at that point as well. So that was, an interesting thing that I was like, oh, it's not that far. Everybody will come, but they didn't. Luckily, we did pick a good location and we ended up doubling our numbers within the first couple of years. So it was a good move. Another thing that happened, during COVID, and all of us struggled during COVID, that's when I had breast cancer and was going through treatment. And so I was navigating COVID from my bed running a dance studio at the same time. So, I mean, there's lots of things that have happened along the road and in my life that you just keep plowing through.
And we're going to figure out how you actually plowed through by creating a support system as well. So in speaking about these challenges that you've really surpassed, even before we hit the record button, you were mentioning how it's kind of a blur and really you just get up every day and you do what you need to do because you have huge responsibilities and huge challenges, but also, there's a bright light in all of that too, because there's a lot of good things that have come out from the challenges that you've had. So
For
thinking
sure.
about building your studio and the culture, my guess would be because you've been so successful, even, mounting these challenges, how have you done that? Like, what choices have you made, or what has been your biggest help to get through and navigate these challenges?
Well, I think when it comes to culture, I felt that I wanted to be intentional about what kind of program do I want to have and what kind of relationships do we want to have with our students and our families. And then also realizing that I can't do it all if I'm going to continue to grow and be successful. So having extra help with admin and delegating the things that aren't my favorite things to do so that I can actually get more joy out of my job. And then putting people in place. I mean, as you have a family and your kids grow, in order to maintain a good family structure, I can't be the competition director and I can't be the office manager that's there every night. So I've had to put people in place to help with those things.
Absolutely. And really running a studio is all about building community, making sure that you have people in place that you can trust, that you can really work through. I know in the training that we just did for our members on dancestudioowner.com, we just talked heavily about really putting your teachers, especially we talked specifically about faculty, really making them stakeholders in your business. And so what you need to do is we talked about stakeholders primarily about the teachers, but really anybody that's internally in your studio. And it's the way to get things done. You have to have a strong backbone of the studio, and what you mentioned first about what you were very intentional about creating that culture, very specific about what you needed, what you wanted, then you can delegate that out and you can make people responsible for what they need to be doing so that everybody succeeds. So I'm glad too when you mentioned kind of starting over and expecting your families to follow you and they didn't. I'm going to put you on the spot here, but what is one thing that you probably did to entice people to come to that new location?
We had to get in touch with our new neighborhood. We had to, get to know our new area, and so that we were finding the right people to join our studio.
Good. I like that. Yeah, we've often talked about that as well. Even if you've been in an existing location for quite a while, knowing the demographic, because you may cross over, different lines where you thought you would draw students from, but you actually draw them from more of another area. I'm in a location right now where I'm very located around borders. Like there are a lot of different towns and areas right where I am. So you can just go 2 miles one way and be in a completely different town and go the other way and the exact opposite, and you're in an entirely different city. So it's amazing to see where people would go. You moved 8 minutes away thinking people would follow you, and they didn't.
Right. Yeah.
It was too far. That 8 minute drive
I
was
know. I still
yeah.
think it's funny that I'm like, it's really not that far. But when we've done research on where our students come from, they are pretty much within a 3 mile radius.
Mhm.
And most of them are south of our building. We're really close to a freeway exit. And it's interesting how people don't want to come from the other side of the freeway, even though we're right next to it. But
Yeah.
just like how with traffic patterns and things, like those specifics can make a big difference.
They can. The drive to the studio that I have is really heavy traffic. And boy, it can take up to 20 minutes when it's normally just a 7 minute drive. So I hear you. People
Yeah.
just are maybe don't want to hit that traffic. So moving into a topic that really we get a lot of feedback on and a lot of people are talking about right now is burnout, right? So things are heavy. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world. What can we talk about when it comes to burnout? Because every studio owner, every business owner, every woman that I know is really kind of feeling burnout at some time. So
Yeah.
what's helped you stay inspired, especially in listening to your story, Dottie? You've overcome some pretty significant challenges and hurdles. What do you draw on for inspiration and support?
Yeah, one thing that I really have found helpful that I've recommended to other people is to make sure you find a network of people to reach out to brainstorm with, to bounce ideas off of, both within our industry of the dance world and outside of it. I have a group of ladies that I get together with every Wednesday for lunch. And they are all business owners in my community that have nothing to do with the dance industry at all. And we can just like talk about business and also things in our personal lives because we know that our business affects our personal lives and vice versa. So sometimes we even tease that it's kind of our entrepreneurial therapy session each week where we can have a trusted group that we can talk through those things. And then it's helpful for me too, whereas I've been so engrossed into the dance studio world for so long, it's been my only quote real job as an adult, that sometimes I don't see things from an outsider perspective. So if I'm trying to launch something new or whatever it is, I can say, what do you guys think about this? Like from an outsider, if I'm going to propose this program or whatever, give me your feedback on that. And that's super helpful to get outside business feedback that's not dance related. But then I also have more than one group of ladies and studio owners that I meet with regularly where we can do all of the dance talk from the dance industry perspective. So I feel like those two things are important to get feedback from both what we know, but also from the outside as well. And then the other thing that I really think is helpful to, fight burnout is continuing ed. I mean, going to events like Energize really do help, you know, get your energy back, just like Energize does. And of course, there's other events and other programs and courses and things that you can do. That I was like, the more you learn, the more energy you have to keep doing what you're doing, because chances are you are great at what you're doing and you're doing a good job, and your community needs you.
Yeah, and it's nice to step away from your day to day. Like you said, getting together with people and women that are not in the dance industry. And then, especially if you go away to a conference, or even if there's one in your area where you can even just get in the car and drive for 20 minutes or an hour, stepping away from your day to day is really important. I think it's really wonderful that you're taking time for yourself, that you found a wonderful group of women that support you. Our community at Dance Studio Owner is there for everybody as well. That's one of the reasons we built the community, is to let
Yeah.
everybody know you're not on an island. It may feel like that at times, but there are so many of us who are experiencing the same challenges, and even not necessarily in the dance industry, but challenges at home. And we have families that we're raising. We have problems with parents that we're dealing with. So there's a lot of facets, and finding your little support system, or a big support system, but finding your support system is so important. Um,
Yes.
Dottie, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of the things that you're doing now. So you're a veteran studio owner, been doing it for many years and successfully so. What are you working on now that's a good project for, kind of helping either other women, other entrepreneurs, other dance studio owners? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I do enjoy the business side of owning a dance studio. I know a lot of studio owners are like extremely on the creative side, and not to say that I'm not creative, but I do enjoy the business side of things as well. And I'm currently in training and doing a course to learn more about financial coaching. I do feel that you can make money in this industry and you can make a living. And I feel as though there's not a lot of resources specific to our industry in helping studio owners get through either their money blocks or how to manage their money so that they can become more successful and reach the goals that they have.
I think that's fantastic. I love that you are interested in the financial side of things. And if we could give some takeaways, especially to maybe the younger self, something that you would have known a while ago, I would think that you're going to touch on the business side of things, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when most people open up a dance studio, they didn't open up a dance studio because they had an accounting degree or because they went to school for business. It's usually because they have a passion for dance, which is awesome. That's important. You need to have that. But in the long run, you do need to have, that business hat on in order to sustain the business long term. And also it's going to help fight burnout because your burnout is going to be magnified if there's no money in the bank.
Yes, and it is important. I think we often think that because we're in the creative arts, or maybe it's just some limiting beliefs that we have, that we can't charge well for our services. And it's almost like it's a bad word to say, oh, we're profiting in our business. But that's what makes the world go round, and we can keep the lights on and we can be profitable as studio owners. And I think that's a really important thing that you mentioned. That's why we're here. We want everybody to be very successful studio owners. We want you to have all the support and resources that you need, and that's why we're here. So Dottie, any last little parting words as we kind of wrap up this podcast today? Because I know that we have listeners that are just starting out. They might not even have a studio space yet. And we've got veteran studio owners like you that have been listening for years. What can we say as we close out this podcast to keep them inspired and really looking forward as this releases? We're at kind of the tail end of the season, which is the busiest, right? So we're feeling tired and we're feeling a little burned out and spent. So what can we close out with that's really inspirational?
Yeah, it's definitely the busy burnout season. But if you can, find something to invest in for yourself, whether it's some sort of continuing ed or reaching out to find a new community to be a support system for you, that's really going to be beneficial for you long term to keep this going, because just as we are investing in ourselves and creating these programs that are really valuable, that's what parents are wanting to invest in for their children to experience as well.
And I think that's a really important point, that you make. If you are part of a community or if you're investing in some continuing education, those are definitely items that you can put on your website. You can showcase them and really show your audience and the people who are coming to your website or calling about your studio and want more information. Hey, you know what? We are regulars at, this particular conference, or every year we're expanding our knowledge, and we really put a lot of thought, energy, and even time and talent and money into continuing education. So I love that.
You should be shouting that from the mountaintops to let people know that it's important.
It is really important. And that's why we're here. So I'm going to add links in the show notes to Dance Studio Owner, any type of podcast that we've done in the past that might be beneficial based on the conversations that we've had with Dotty Hancock. So Dottie, as we close out today, thank you so much for being here. I'm really appreciative of you taking the time and to share your story, which is definitely personal and really means a lot, because if you can overcome those challenges that you have, and you've been so wonderfully successful and such a strong member of your community, and really adding those offerings to the students that you have in your studio and the families that you support, I just think this is such a learning experience for so many people. So thank you for being an inspiration.
Oh, thank you, Jill.
What a powerful conversation today with Dotty Hancock. I hope her honesty and insight gives you permission to breathe, reassess, and remember that you don't have to do it all alone. If today's episode resonates with you, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another studio owner who needs to hear it. And don't forget, there's a whole group of studio leaders just like you inside our community. And like Dottie mentioned, continuing education and support is available at Revolution's Energize Conference in August. Head over to energizeconference.com for all the details. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dance Studio 411. Visit us online at dancestudio411.com for more great resources and to submit a question for a future episode. Our number one goal is to help you build a successful dance studio business and keep your passion for dance alive.